when I look back, I don't think I had all the answers when I was young, and you just got to keep that in perspective. I'm wondering what those folks were thinking of me, when they interviewed me, and it's kind of a privilege to get to work with young people, and I think young people are always eager to learn. Good leadership can help people grow. You do have to hire well. We do really look for certain fit elements, for sure. But we're also, grateful in a way to be able to work with them. And every time there's a problem or a challenge or something we wish somebody was getting faster or better, we try to really turn the lens back at ourselves, saying, did we give them the tools? Did we guide them into the process? Did we hire them with the right expectation and set the right expectation for them, before getting into the performance management process? And both have to occur, but it is a learning experience on both sides continuously, I think, for leadership and the team.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow?
Today, we're going to talk about leadership and company, but in the perspective of a customer-focused approach. When you really have a customer-focused culture, you have people that are solving the customer problems, that there's a different kind of communication. There's a different energy that goes around the work that you're doing and how you guys align together on solving those problems. Well, today we're going to really unpack this customer-focused approach with Rob Steele. He's a co-founder at Legendary Supply Chain. They were on the Inc. 5000. They're a smaller company, but they are growing fast. And he talks a little bit about the company, but mostly about this customer-focused approach and what that really means for their business. My hope is that you will see kind of what that looks like inside of an organization, why it's so necessary, and then what you can do to make sure that people are aligned. He does mention patience quite a lot, so that's something that we unpack inside today's interview with Rob. My job here is to help you be an extraordinary leader. Now, extraordinary may be something that scares you off, but I really believe leadership is the cornerstone of addressing the issues that we need to, and really forging forward together to innovate. We're in some tough economic times as I record this. People are cutting back, people are slowing down, but I also know that if we invest in our people, then we will get through this together. I believe that. A lot of my clients believe that. A lot of the people on this podcast believe it as well. Hopefully you do too. If there's any way our company can help you through executive coaching or leadership development, we're here to help you become extraordinary leaders, create a pathway for managers to become leaders inside your organization. If you're curious about those things, there's a couple of different ways we can connect. We actually offer a free assessment called the Leadership Effectiveness Evaluation, and we can score you and really dive into some details about where you are right now so that you have a clear understanding of move forward. If you're listening to this podcast, it's absolutely free. All you have to do is go to genehammett.com, schedule a call today, tell me you've heard about it on the podcast, and you can get the Leadership Effectiveness Evaluation, and it's absolutely free and very valuable. Now, here's the interview with Rob. Rob, how are you?
All right. How are you, Gene?
I am fantastic. We're going to have a great conversation today, and we're going to talk about, a customer-focused culture and leadership, what that really means for the company, what it means for company growth. But before we get there, tell me about your company, Legendary Supply Chain.
Great. Yeah. This is it's a family story. It's my son and I are the co-founders. Still small private bootstrap. We've got a pretty fast march. Should finish this year around 10 million, which has been neat. And we're really focused around kind of transforming the supply chain in the cloud. Kind of starts. It's a long story, but I've used a lot of systems, ran a lot of fairly large companies out of more enterprise level platforms, and just never found the right fit. A lot of them are really designed around manufacturing with that focus, and we're really focused around service and distribution, although we do assembly and certain manufacturing elements. But we've transformed a lot of small businesses' supply chains. We're pretty fanatical about our customers to the point that sometimes we won't even we step on our growth to focus on the tasks at hand, and even run a marketplace within the healthcare space for technology service providers as well. So it's been great.
And as we did research on you've kind of riding on the platform for Salesforce. Tell me a little bit about why you chose that platform.
A lot of history. I've worked with Salesforce since 2004. even strong-armed a Fortune 50 company I was working for into using Salesforce, who actively fought it. But it was kind of like the first time I held an iPhone as well, and I have a story there about forcing some adoption there. I just knew it was a great platform. I knew what it could be. I was too dumb to buy the stock, so I still have to work for a living. If I would have just probably shoved everything into that stock, I might have been retired by now. And it's been a great run with them. We're very passionate about the cloud and that concept, and what that can do for companies.
Well, let's dive into what we really came here to talk about. You had said to our team and our research that you have a customer-centered focus. What is that to you?
It borders on customer fanaticism sometimes. I think many times we're almost more focused on the customer's business than some of them are, almost. Meaning that we really are trying to solve the toughest problems in business. We've been very selective of our initial customers. We still somewhat consider ourselves in stealth mode. We're not out there trying to do big splashy marketing. We're very selective as we talk to clients, and hope that they're a good fit and they're a near neighbor to what we've already built. But then oftentimes they'll throw something new at us or something of interest. So top to bottom within this company, every single person in it is still working directly with clients every day. And all we think about is how to solve their problems. My co-founder often says that when someone bequeaths him with a problem, he never lets it go. It doesn't mean he can solve all elements of it initially, but it's just literally what we do.
All of our businesses are centered around solving the problems for our customers. And, some employees come in because it's a job. How do you get them to really take ownership of the customer-centered approach?
It's a mix. Some people have a high aptitude and move fast, and other folks it takes more time. And we've had to have some patience. Sometimes when the employee is trying to learn how to work with the client, we do a lot of show first. So we try to really ease them into the client interaction until they've built their own competency. Building internal training and dialogue has become a major focus for us. What we do is a very hard space. I mean, we functionally built an ERP within the Salesforce cloud. And so we're not only transforming the clients, but this is shocking. Young people coming out of school or even haven't been to school have some certain skills. They don't enjoy supply chain the way me and my partner do. They don't think about it on the weekend. So we've really had to kind of teach them all these basic things so that they can have a meaningful discussion with the client, understand what the client's trying to accomplish. And it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of young folks here, and teaching them from the order to cash process and what sales orders purposes are, and all these kind of boring things for some folks. Those of us in the supply chain world, they're a little more exciting. So it's the mix of we throw people in the deep end of the pool quick. Sometimes we're always there with the life preserver ready to pull them out, and then instead of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, we really try to slot them into a good fit role so we can continue to coach their business acumen along with their customer service skills and things relevant to their experience.
A lot of companies years ago would avoid hiring the young people because the millennials were difficult, they're entitled, or whatever it may be. My response typically back to them was like, well, if you only avoid that, then your business probably will die.
Right.
You've embraced hiring younger people. And what have you learned about truly leading a younger generation?
A lot of patience, different cultural constructs, different thoughts. I think with every generation, I started in the workforce very young and started in the more professional workforce still very young, and had to cut my mullet, and it was very hard time for me. So when I look back, I don't think I had all the answers when I was young, and you just got to keep that in perspective. I'm wondering what those folks were thinking of me, when they interviewed me. And it's kind of a privilege to get to work with young people. And I think young people are always eager to learn. Good leadership can help people grow. You do have to hire well. We do really look for certain fit elements, for sure. But we're also grateful in a way to be able to work with them. And every time there's a problem or a challenge or something we wish somebody was getting faster or better, we try to really turn the lens back at ourselves, saying, did we give them the tools? Did we guide them into the process? Did we hire them with the right expectation and set the right expectation for them, before getting into the performance management process? And both have to occur, but it is a is a learning experience on both sides continuously, I think, for leadership and the team.
Now, Rob has been talking about patience, and I wanted to highlight something. This comes up quite often in my coaching business. A lot of founders are driven hard. They're really trying to catch an edge and ride a wave or whatever it may be, and they don't always get the response they want or the results that they want. And we have to talk about being patient. One of the things that I know is it's a choice. You can be intentional about it, but it is a choice. Don't see it as, just frustration. And you got to learn to choose to be patient. You got to be intentional about it in the beginning. One of the things I do with my clients is really just talk about what it is and how they're able to connect to it on a more regular basis. And there's so many tools I use to do this, but I'm just sharing with you today that if you ever feel like you need more patience in your world, just step back and say, how would I solve this problem if I was more patient? Just think about that for a few minutes. If you can catch yourself in those moments, you'll realize it is a choice. It's not just something that you just, find maybe by luck. Be intentional about those things. Now back to Rob. Rob, what you just said there reminds me of one of the most important questions that comes up in my coaching. I've explained to you, I'm an executive coach, and I've picked up this question not too long ago, maybe a year or two ago, but everyone wants to blame someone else for something. And I can listen to that. I can get it. I've had reasons why I want to blame someone else. It could be my dog, could be my son, my wife, could be an employee, could be a client.
Right.
But I asked the question, how did I contribute, or how did you contribute to this? And you talked about, you turning it back on yourself about setting expectations. Is that something you learned through your journey of leadership, about turning it on yourself and really asking those hard questions?
I think I had an odd journey in the regards of, I didn't start out as an entrepreneur, started out as a field engineer, service manager, got into sales, somehow ended up running a national and somewhat global supply chain for a time, and then into M&A. And I sort of took a lot of the lessons for granted, had different executive coaches when I was on the fast track. One of those experiences required being in a room with a two-way mirror and being filmed, in a scenario of coaching performance. And it was a good experience, and then you have your peers critique you, right? So that was an interesting, positive experience with coaching, but I still didn't quite appreciate all the structure that corporate America gives you until I went out there and started trying, had some failures, went out, had some other forays into private equity world and rolling up companies. And then it sort of burned into my brain differently, that how much I took for granted, how much structure some of the big companies provide you because it's already there. And you just, you're sort of parroting the talk points, but you are not internally ingesting the why and the appreciation of some of that structure, and there, even if the cultures turn not always in the best direction, you just have so much sitting there for you to leverage. And then when you really get into running a startup from bootstrap, from the ground up, working with in my case, my son as well, that puts a different brain frame on it. There's no one to turn to, there's nobody there to help, there's no parachutes, unexpected things come up. But I do think one of the interesting things from working with family is you really think that every person you hire, I kind of got years ago, I also stopped believing in the business and personal separation to the extreme, because it's kind of not true. There are relationships. Some of them are, with customers, some of them are with employees, some of them are with vendors, some of them are with the people closest to you in your life, but they are all relationships. And by default of surviving and becoming the old guy in the room, you realize like you're the person they're looking to for real mentorship, not a corporate talk track that you picked up in some sort of book or something. They need real help and guidance, as we all do. We all need that.
Now, I've shared this question with you already, but I want to unpack it a little bit for you. How did I contribute to the issue? It's not a fun question, but it's one where you're in control, where you get to really reflect on yourself, be introspective, if you will, about how you've contributed to it. Many times you didn't communicate it effectively enough. You didn't say it enough or as often as you needed to. You didn't reinforce it. You didn't, do the things that were necessary for someone to understand what you expected. Because if you're out of alignment, you've got to look at what you do first, because you've contributed to this in a way. You can't just blame the others. That puts complete control for them to turn it around. But if you look at yourself, you can actually look at things that you can actually shift first and see if those work. And then you've done everything possible. That's my 2 cents on this question. I love it. How did you contribute to the issue? Isn't easy, but it's necessary to look at. Back to Rob. I want to let you unpack a little bit about that leadership that you've been talking about. Just like, how do you see leadership of a customer-centered or customer-focused organization?
For us, I mean, everybody here is touching a customer, has direct impact with a client at all times. And it's a bit of a hazing, and we really do try to ease people into it. But the end goal is always a good client outcome. I have a good friend, much more experienced than me, and has done a lot of entrepreneurial things. And he always said there's only one boss, and that boss is the customer. If that customer is not happy, and they're not telling their friends and family about you or how you did a good job, and our business, some of my verticals are pretty familial folks, then you're failing. And once they stop paying, well, you're not paying anybody else either. And I always thought it was good advice. I mean, just to try to remind everybody, because client interactions can be stressful or challenging. Some clients, we had this discussion, and it's some of the clients, when we work together for years and we're trying to solve really hard problems, you start getting very direct in your discussions. And we've told some of them, you just figured this problem, that you had a problem out yesterday. We've been thinking about that specific problem for 6 years and trying to build a better and more improved way to solve it, and trying to come to that good place with the customer to where you can push back on each other constructively. Sometimes that creates some constructive tension, but then when you finally get through the wall and people really see what you were able to accomplish together, is extremely satisfying, and very much a customers for life approach is our ideal situation. Not just selling them some software and moving on. It's we want to grow with them. We want to be a key strategic reason that their business has been able to succeed and grow. And some of them have told us that very directly. And that's always like, that's when you feel like you win. It's rarely along the way. It's mostly a lot of gnashing of teeth and and other things, when you're in the middle of it. But once you get to the end and everybody really sees, oh, I get it now. It takes time sometimes.
You had mentioned something about direct conversations, and it really sent off some signals for me, because we're writing a book on how to have tough conversations. Would you say that's something you've embraced in your leadership, and it's really made an impact for the company growth, or is it something you had to learn the hard way?
Both, for sure.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, it's kind of back to that general philosophy now, even about, unlearning some of what I learned at corporate, about relationships are just relationships. You're either in healthy relationships or you're not, right? And and I'm generally considered a pretty fun guy, although this stuff is pretty technical and not, people, 6-year-olds don't say, oh, I want to work in supply chain and stuff when I grow up, and build software around it, because that sounds cool. But you have to have some tough messages. So sometimes I do diffuse it with humor. I did have a client that wanted to go faster, and we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. We work with a lot of small to mid-sized companies for sure. And they said, well, if money's no object, and we want this project done not in 9 months but in 3 months, how do you do that? And why can't you do that? And I don't know if this was the best retort, but I'm like, well, I can hire you 9 women, but they can't make you a baby in 1 month. So we can spend the money, we can try, but it's not going to achieve the outcome you want. It's not something we can easily staff to, and it takes us time to bring people up to speed. And I'd love to be able to just find 100. There's all these other companies out there, but even the big the consultants, the biggest ones, don't have people sitting around with nothing to do. And then the interview process and to find the people with expertise, is nothing trivial. So, I find it can be stressful short term, but it sets up a better long-term expectation to just be honest sometimes, put the elephant out in the room. And if you've got history and you keep showing people that you're credible and what you say is accurate, it matters over time. Although, in the beginning, it's not always, if you're breaking the paradigm. And successful people, and you've been in business a long time, the hardest folks to tell to do something differently or to change their mind when they've been madly successful to a point of doing what they're doing is not an easy task, right? You've got someone that is very intelligent or, committed and has been successful, and you're saying, yes, you're all of those things, but there's a different way to approach the situation or a better outcome that we can achieve if we just follow the process, and we do that a lot. That's what we do.
Rob, I want to wrap us up today with a big question, but just give you a chance to talk about this. Is there a defining moment in your leadership that made a really impact to the way you see leadership, and it's really helped you grow the company that you have today?
A number of them. One of them was having a good mentor myself when I was really young, and just a very qualitative individual that I had the pleasure of working for after he almost fired me for insubordination before he promoted me, which is telling in my career path. And you know, I was entrepreneurial then, and he said something to me about, you know, entrepreneurialism, and said that he would never do it because, you know, you almost have to maintain this certain amount of naivety to try to take on doing the business world. And then, you know, I've always remembered that. And then, you know, I got naive myself, and, you know, I felt like I let a team down with the startup, you know, one of my first startups. And, you know, I realized that I didn't have a good read on how naive I was, how much leadership it takes, how much responsibility is involved. I feel like I almost really broke some people by pushing them so hard early on, and myself. And I've been in that startup grind to where you're driving 100 miles an hour, and you know, it starts raining, and you know you should slow down, but you know, your private equity partner saying go faster, we still got to get there on time, and you're like, this is not responsible. So I would say it's trying to balance that practicality of leadership versus that excitement and those things, and try to maintain a more balanced perspective, and just, you know, really respect the responsibility of you know, having a team, and trying to grow a company, and the things that entails.
Rob, I appreciate you being here, talking about a customer center focus for your company, sharing your wisdom, and really appreciate your time.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, Gene.
Wow, what a great interview. I love talking with people that understand people and understand why leadership is so important. I had a chance to wrap up with Rob off the record, but I will tell you, he is someone who believes in investing in employees, and really the need for that is to help them become stronger managers, stronger leaders, and to help them delegate better. And all those things are necessary. And I just hope that you are thinking that too. And if there's any way our company can help you and serve you, a systematic approach for leadership development is something we do for smaller companies. We don't work with big companies, but we work with small, fast-growing companies, probably like yourself. And if you're curious about that, just reach out to genehammett.com and schedule your call. We'd love to connect with you. When you think of growth and you think of leadership, think of Growth Think Tank. As always, live with courage. We'll see you next time.